Hello, everybody, and welcome back to In the Ring with Termite and Mr. S.
Welcome back. Today's show is going to be a good one. We have a gentleman that was we'll call him a wash up, almost committed suicide. He really just had a lot of struggles with drugs and alcohol, but he turned it all around to become a millionaire. And he's going to share how he did that. So we're going to want to pay attention to, I know I'll be taking some notes.
Hey, I'll be taking mental notes. I've been taking mental notes as long as I've known this man, and he's pretty doggone incredible, and it's going to be fun today. And I might even pick at him a little bit.
It is. So if any of you out there want to know how to be successful and you think that you've screwed up too much, we're going to have a guest on that has made tons of mistakes, and he's become very successful, and you're going to want to learn from him. So I can't wait to hear more about that.
It's going to be exciting.
But until then, as I know you and I both, run businesses in line with that. Something I was thinking about is when you are a leader of your business, you got your employees, you got your family life. Are there things that you would kind of give advice to maybe someone that's leading another business, an entrepreneur? How do you balance that? I'll call it a balance between your growing your business, dealing with your family. You've got to give them enough attention. You've got to grow your business. You've got to give your employees enough attention. What are some of your tricks or tactics, whatever you want to call them, to do that effectively?
Speaking on that, the attention, the people that I give attention is, of course, my wife and my kids and my, all my friends. I try to get everybody, and you just can't.
Right.
And so I think that you got to pick your priorities and run with it. And the man that that's going to be on here in just a minute, he has done a good job at picking his priorities in life. It's going to be just fascinating. I can't wait to get him on here. But, that's me. I think on my side, I like to, who am I going to focus on this time? Because I've got so many friends that if I don't watch it, my time gets a little bit between everybody, and then nobody gets any time.
I know how it is, and I feel like I know quite a few people, 100 times more people than I do. My phone rings constantly.
Yeah.
If I'm trying to get something done, whether it's through my business day or even after hours, my phone is always ringing with somebody, and it's a friend, it's somebody I want to talk to, tens of thousands of people. Your phone's constantly going off. It's like, how do you give the attention to your friends, also with your family, grow your business? It's that juggling act of priorities.
It's priorities and juggling act, but it's a daily. And I think it's just something that you have to handle daily. It just becomes a part of your daily schedule. And because things have a way of changing, just like in the boxing ring. When you're out there moving around in your boxing, you've got to adjust to things all the time. And it's the same way with this. We've got to juggle things and go back to priorities.
I agree. And I've heard different people say different things. I've heard some folks say there's, no such thing as balance. You're either all in or you're not. And if someone, your family can't support your business, then it's just not going to work out because you're not going to be successful in your business. You hear all these different things. I like to look at it as more of seasons.
Yeah.
Because there's going to be times where I really have to focus in this particular season for whatever's going on in business. And my family is going to get less of my time.
Right.
Now, that's a season. Yes. That cannot go on forever. I think then the season has to then kind of change where now there's less time here. So that's how I look at it, as more of a season thing.
Yeah.
Otherwise, consistently all day long, that's like, unless you live on the equator, which we're pretty close to, seasons are not consistent. You have your winters, you have your spring, your fall, and your summer.
You have all your different seasons. You have your ups and downs. And, each season you go into it prepared differently. And I think that's life. We just got to...
I think you do have to prepare. And I know there's some scripture that talks about how the ant prepares for that. So in keeping in mind that life does have seasons, business and whatnot, if you're not aware of that, they're going to catch you by surprise.
Yeah.
And it's going to come wintertime and you're not going to have enough food.
That's right.
So I struggle with the balance because I do hear a lot of folks nowadays like, oh, it's all about your family, which life is about family.
Sure.
But I've seen some men where it's so much about their family that they're not working enough.
Yeah.
And they're not providing. So come wintertime, they spent time hanging out with their kids all summer, and then come winter, like, oh, we don't have enough for Christmas presents. We don't. And so that's where I bring the season concept in. How do you plan ahead for these seasons?
Yeah. Talking from a biblical thing, I pray on that. Lord, give me the wisdom that I need for this season, this moment, this time right now. And I catch myself having to do that daily and throughout the day, because seasons, during the day we may be in one season, but there may be a little thunderstorm over here. The sunshine might be shining bright over here, but something else is going on over here. And
I know what you mean. But I don't know how many times, every time, I will plan out my day. This is what I'm going to get done at this time block. This is going to happen, and this is going to happen. You know how often it actually works out that way?
Yeah.
It very rarely. And it's like you said, just things pop up. And I guess it's just kind of got to be agile on your feet, but keeping in mind the season or the goal, whether it's this part in your business, things got to happen, or these monumental things in your family life, the kids' event, right? You can't move that. You can't say, I'll visit that later. So I think it is just a constant juggling, balancing act, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. And in boxing terms, it's, you got to keep your chin down. You got to keep your hands up. You got to keep your guard up.
Keep your guard up, as we like to say. Because things are going to come at you.
That's right. And when they do come at you, it's not if they will come, they are going to come.
Right.
And it's how we handle those things that come at us is where we end up.
I like that. We say it as our tagline, keep your guard up. But it is so true. You just always got to be alert. And I think as men, that's our job on the security side of things. I don't think women are wired that way. I think us men are wired to kind of be alert, keep your head on a swivel, look around, keep your guard up.
Yeah.
And I think that's just our job.
It's our job, and I actually love that job.
I enjoy it. I couldn't do any other way.
I love being a man, and I love, keeping my guard up. Not that I don't drop my guard, because I've dropped my guard many times in my life, and
I have on times that I shouldn't have.
And I've got knocked down, and we're going to hear some stories about getting knocked down. I've gotten knocked down a few times.
You have physically,
Literally and business-wise.
Right. Yes.
And I've been blessed to always get up. And I think our story that we're fixing to hear is going to be talking about a lot of knockdowns.
I think
but
it
yet
is.
Getting up. Not only did he get up, he raised his hands in victory. And he does that all the time.
I think that's a good segue. I think we should go ahead and jump in to bringing on our guest.
I'm with you.
All right, let's do it.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the main event on In the Ring with Termite and Mr. S. Stepping into the ring is a man who started in cells and rose to the top. He's the scuba diving CEO who took the plunge into entrepreneurship and surfaced with a global flange empire. From bankruptcy to boardroom, he turned setbacks into stepping stones and now leads Texas Flange, trusted by everyone from NASA to SpaceX. Fueled by faith, grounded in grit, and always brewing up the next big move. It's the deep diving deal maker, the one, Jeff Pressure-Rated Barnett.
You're in the ring.
Jeff Pressure-Rated Barnett. What you think of that?
Yeah, I love that because when you specify pressure rated, you didn't specify if I'm lightweight or if I'm heavyweight.
That raised face.
Don't know if I can do like a 125 or a 2500. In the flange market, those are just different ratings. So it doesn't really tell anything about me. It just says that I'm rated somehow.
You're pressure rated.
I love it. It's better than Whitney's introduction. Last week when you guys had Whitney in here,
Okay.
Termite starts him off talking about his boxing experience. By the way, I want to take a second and just to clarify something. After seeing that, we were at a boxing match where we had dinner together with a bunch of people, and they were giving Whitney a hard time about that fight we had. And I want to just clarify something at the beginning. The fight was 42 seconds long. I have said that when I hit him in the face the first time solid, his arm started hurting, and I'm kind of joking around about his arm giving out on him. But the truth is, the way I won that fight was that Whitney hit me so hard at about 20 seconds it bent my head back, and that's when he jacked his arm up. And after that, his jab was nothing, and I was just walking through it.
Your head hurt his arm?
So the way I won is I just took the biggest blow he could dish and jacked his arm up in the process. Got it. So
Bring your mic closer. So there's benefits of being hard-headed is what I'm hearing.
there's benefits of having an opponent that is doing multiple things, including hurting himself in his other sports.
Okay.
So that was it. And we said before we fought, we said whoever loses will never live it down. And so the people we know in common, because we have a lot of the same friends.
Yeah.
They're not letting him live it down. So I'm really trying to make the apology tour. It's like
The apology tour.
he really didn't lose. It's just he chased me around the ring, and when I stopped, he hit me so hard it damaged his arm. I mean, this is not a loss. But yeah, it's a lot of fun, and Whitney and I still keep up, and we had a good time last week at a show down in Galveston, and I love boxing when I'm not promoting. It's a wonderful sport.
Promoting is a lot of work.
It really is. It really is.
So before we jump into that, so you and I, we all, we've known you for quite a while. For the folks that don't know you, we're going to do a little round of kind of getting to know you. So, who is Jeff Barnett? Where'd you grow up?
Right. Well, before we get into that, I wanted to say something. I know your business is good, Mr. S.
Yes, sir.
Because when it's bad, we do lunch like 4 times a year.
That's funny.
So you figured it out, or you
So when
drug
things are
everything
going
you
bad,
could out
I
of me.
got to call Jeff. Like, what am I doing
Yeah,
wrong?
right. So
you
we
give
go
great
out.
advice.
We go out more whenever there's
So when things are
problems.
good, you don't hear from me, is what you're saying.
I don't hear from you guys much when everything's going good. You're like, come up here and talk to us.
I have to make a little mental note of that.
Nah, it's all good. I enjoy, and it's kind of what you guys were talking about. It's the ebb and flow of it. Where we get busy. And I'd never want my friends to take off evenings or even lunches whenever they could spend it with their families if everything's going okay.
Right.
And like what you were talking about, you were talking at the beginning about your phone rings nonstop. And I get that. So I'm listening to you, and I'm turning my phone on Do Not Disturb because it's like I don't want to be out there with my phone ringing. My grow-up story is pretty boring. I grew up in Pasadena, Texas,
Yep.
and born in Arkansas. And, I almost graduated from high school. I got in a fight with a teacher in my senior year, and she decided she was smarter than me. I didn't want to accept that, so that ended my high school career. So that was kind of interesting. But yeah, then, I got married early and then moved to Chicago, lived 8 years up there, and then came back down here. And whenever I crossed the Mason-Dixie line coming back, I stopped the U-Haul. And I got out, and I got on the ground. I literally kissed the ground. I was back in the South. It was like, oh my gosh, this is so.
8 years in the Windy City.
I learned a lot in Chicago. I have a love for that city. I love the state of Illinois. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that dynamic there. But there's just something about home.
Different culture as well. I've been there just to visit, and it is a windy city.
It is, and there was one time I was selling IT, like custom application development. It was right before the bubble, and everybody was just paying money for anything. So I got into that industry, and I was thinking this would be a good place to break the 6-figure mark. And there was one day I walked out of the door in downtown Chicago, and I was fighting with the door, and I could hear like this loud like a freight train was going by, and I'm fighting with the door to get it open. And then as I'm pushing out, I realized that's the wind. And it's like 2 or 3 degrees. And whenever the door released, I was into the wind, and I was leaning into a 40-mile-an-hour wind with a 2-degree. It was something like a -20 wind chill.
Wow.
And I thought, I have to get back to Houston. I mean,
Come
just
back to
whatever.
Texas.
I'll take a pay cut, whatever. I had to get back here.
Well, we're glad you did, Jeff.
Yeah.
Jeff, I've known you for some time now, but what was your childhood, your life Yeah, it was here in Houston, right?
right?
Tell us a little bit about how you come up in life.
There's this deal about the people that were born in the 50s and the people that were born in the 60s and the people who were born in the 70s. I was born in 74, so I got the tail end of it. You know, I got the very end of like we had Atari. You know, I saw like the invention of the HBO where you'd stand up and you'd turn the knobs and you had 40 channels, but we didn't have enough money to have that, so we only had 3. So I was in that blessed period of time whenever you didn't have endless entertainment and carrying around all the world's information in your pocket and all the wonderful things we have now that kind of have a negative. And if you think about childhood and adulthood, everything we have now is kind of damaging to childhood.
It's interesting perspective.
And it's good for adults because we have all this information and we can use it. You know, I mean, I think it's fantastic now. But as children, it's like it's almost too much, too fast. You shouldn't have that much entertainment. You shouldn't have that much freedom. You do.
That's a very interesting concept because I do hear from my kids a lot. They're bored. And that's mainly because they're so used to just being entertained nonstop. You take it away for 5 minutes and they just don't know how to just look at the wall and think about something like we had to do.
Right.
As kids.
We just finished VBS at church. And I mean, VBS is like bam, bam, boom, boom, lights, camera, action, smoke, doom, 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 the whole time. Because the second you stop doing that, they're like, oh, you know, where's my tablet? You know?
It's very, yeah, I wonder what life is going to be like, you know, when these are all running the show 20 years from now.
The one thing I've noticed, my 10-year-old daughter is still incredibly creative. You know, she'll still get a pad of paper and start drawing. She's like, these are my different lines of dresses that she does. And she'll say, oh, do you like the summer line? Do you like the winter line? And she's got multiple dresses. And once you pick a line that she wants to know which one you like and why and all. So they still have that, you know, it's still there. Maybe it's just, you know, it's different than what I'm used to. So therefore it's bad. You know?
I get it. Well, tell us, what was your first job? Did that shape you at all? Is that even relevant to you?
First job, my dad told me when I was 10, he showed me how to mow the grass one time. He said, now you mow the grass every week and you earn the right, once you've done that, to mow other people's grass with my lawnmower.
Okay.
So then I started asking neighbors if I could mow their grass. And I look back on this and it was nuts. It was crazy. I would walk past 100 houses to get the one that would let me mow it. But, you know, when you're a kid, you got, like, your time is worth absolutely nothing.
Right.
You know, it's like you can't, it's not like somebody's offering you big money to do something else. So I started mowing grass in the neighborhood, and that was kind of the first thing I did. I got a job where I was filling bags of mulch, and if I worked really, it was like my first commission experience. It's like, work slow, make $4 an hour. Work fast, make $6.
I love that.
Yeah, and it was like just brutal work. And, you know, we did it all summer, standing up on a steel, you know, like when I first went to Chicago, I'm like, this is wonderful. You know, the temperature was just brutal, and there was just constant fluids, but like got in fantastic shape, and you know, so there's aspects of it. You know, they say that like people that work outside, very rarely do you find them at the therapist office. You know, so there's some benefit to that.
That's a good point.
You know?
Yeah, being in the office can make you soft, to put it kind of bluntly.
I think it's the lack of sun. I think the sun and us have this relationship, and whenever we lock ourselves away from the sun, it's bad.
I would say I'd agree with that.
So it's tough. Like whenever your most productive thing you can do is sit at a desk. You know, it's very easy to start doing that 10, 12 hours a day. And, you know, and then I tell myself going out and gardening is like, that's not a good use of my time, but it actually keeps you healthy. So on occasion I run out there and do my own gardening. You know, it's just to be outside and work in the soil.
Just some manual labor.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Jeff, as you're getting to know you a little bit better now, I've known you for years, but one of the things I've never asked you, when you were coming up, did you've got this business mind now, but when you were coming up, were you focused on rock bands or scouts, or it wasn't business?
Great question.
Okay.
Great question. So my dad had a tree business, and he struggled with it. And like he would have anything that bad happened would kind of level him, and he'd have to start over. So he'd go back and forth between his career and trying to run this little service business. And I didn't understand at the time the reason he was so driven to try to find some successful business was his dad had a mercantile business in the town I was born in. All of my uncles were successful businessmen. So I watched what they did, and it was like no one ever like mentored me. They didn't like initiate me into manhood. They didn't even know how, right?
Right.
But I would see like my uncle do things like I could hear from a distance. My uncle had a tree business up where they actually had trees. So he was like very successful at it. He said, "You went to Houston, there's no trees there. You know, we live in a place where there's, you know, everything's covered with trees in South Arkansas." So he's negotiating with a neighbor who wanted to buy some chainsaws from him. And he said it's $800 for the two of them. They were nice chainsaws. That was back when everything was American made and was expensive. So he was, and the guy was like $700. I'm not going to give you more than $700. He goes, okay. And he turns to my dad. He says, put them in the back of your car. You can use them. And my dad's like, you know, I can't buy these from you. I don't have $800. And my uncle's like, yeah, but I'd rather give them to you than sell them to him for $700. Now my uncle was pounding his chest a little bit. And he was also kind of demonstrating a point to the guy that he's not going to be nickeled and dimed.
Right.
Yeah.
And I just looked at that and I went, how could you possibly give away something that's worth you could have got $700. How could you give that away? And I thought, that's pretty cool. And then a couple years after that, his son had gotten old enough to where he could drive a 250cc motorcycle. And in Arkansas at the time, if you were 14, you could drive a 50cc motorcycle on the road. So the 50cc motorcycle was about $900, and it had less than 1,000 miles on it. My cousin had driven it back and forth to school. And so I'm up there, and he tells my dad, put that motorcycle in the back of the truck. We don't want to trade it in. I'm going to go grab my boy, the 250, and take that home for Jeff. And like whenever he did that, I thought, I don't know what they do, but I'm going to figure out what they do, and I'm going to do that. So
It was like a little moment in your childhood that kind of maybe planted that entrepreneurial seed.
I was at that point from then on, I was like trying to figure out some way to get independent. I didn't mind working for other people, and I worked hard for other people. And I didn't see like it was a bad thing if I continued to work for other people. But whenever I saw any kind of opportunity to kind of branch into my own thing, I wanted to.
It was just there.
Yeah, it's just kind of like a in the DNA kind of thing. Yeah.
Were you more of a rule follower as a kid, or did you just kind of do your own thing? Did that ever have an effect on you?
Well, since the statute of limitations has expired, now in between, I mean, a lot of times I was trying to gain approval. I wanted to do good. I wanted to do good in school. And yeah, I broke a lot of rules and got into a lot of trouble. Mhm. Yeah, so very strange thing, you know, the way that you could interact with the police force back then. It was very different.
A little
you know?
different?
Yeah. Like they would actually take you to the police office, and then they would call your parents.
Yeah.
And there would be like no record of it. You know, it would be, you know.
Those were definitely different times.
Yeah, they'd tell you, you do this again, you know, there'll be a record on you. We're going to charge you next time. We won't just call your parents. So we got that, and we always got there for different reasons. So it's like, but we didn't do it again. This was clearly different.
Yeah, it scared you enough you didn't do it again.
Moving around helped too. So it wasn't the same police force. So.
Jeff, what's a memory that makes you still smile today that's happened back in your life when you were young?
Just got to think too hard. Must be a
Oh
rough
yeah,
childhood.
yeah. I had a great childhood, and then I turned 3. Okay, you're getting. You know.
Well, we can come back to that one.
Yeah, you really stumped me on that one. Yeah, I don't know. There's a time where my uncle told my dad, he says, coming to my house is fine. We're glad you come. We're glad you're visiting. But this isn't vacation. You should take your family on a vacation. So my dad, stretching, took us to Hot Springs. We went from El Dorado, Arkansas to Hot Springs. And we did like a weekend in Hot Springs, and that was really nice.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So I went back to Hot Springs 8-9 years ago, and I stayed in the most expensive place they had, and I did all that same stuff I did, but I didn't worry about how much it cost. And it was just like, my parents were like looking like, is there a McDonald's in this town? And I'm like, where's the most expensive restaurant?
It is a certain rite of passage. I've done similar things where you kind of, I grew up very frugal. My parents were too. So it's nice to say, you know what, I'm just going to go to the nicest place just because. And it's not more of a brag. It's more of a, you feel like you accomplished something.
I
assuming
feel
yours
like
is
it's
very similar.
It's like a rag, and you just wipe the dirty, poor trash person you would just clean it up, you know. I hate to admit it, but there is a degree of that. So some of that's some of the driving force. And like, I can't expect my kids to come out with an iron work ethic, I'll buy you the whip to beat me with if you pay me enough. My kids aren't going to be like that. They didn't grow up in the setting I grew up in. I was always like, my parents always wanted to find a safe area. And by putting us in like the blue collar safe area, not the danger. If we lived in the dangerous area, we would have been like right in the middle.
Yeah.
Right.
But we lived in the safe area, so we were in the bottom. So when I went to the little better school, I was in the bottom. So I felt that. I began to become aware of that in middle school.
And it shapes you.
It does. It really does. There's something about poverty that really is, and not even just poor, even, and how you internalize that can sometimes be part of the kick. The wounded place is normally the place of power. So
Good perspective.
yeah, it can
It can be. I've seen it take people down.
It can kill you, but if it doesn't kill you, there's a lot of power in that wound.
Yeah.
I agree. Well, speaking of that, I want to jump into some of the things that did knock you down. So let's end round one, unless you had something else.
No, I'm just curious. Are we getting some questions on?
Yeah, that's a good point. Anybody that's listening, any of these things strike a nerve with you, any stories like similar to your life, go ahead and put them in the comments, and then we'll read some of those as they come through.
I was just curious that my phone is actually beeping back and forth, and it never does that when we're on here. And I'm just wondering, is there people
Yeah,
going
so
to
if there are, well, I'm sure Jarrell will let us know,
Yeah.
but have
Okay.
some comments. So jumping into round two. Round two is where things get real. So obviously you sound like you had a pretty normal childhood, we'll call that. And what is, I'd say, one major challenge or adversity you faced in your life, and how did it shape you to who you are today?
You only want one?
One start, and then you can do as many more as you want after that.
I've had two major bottoms in my life. We investigated in detail, thank you, Termite, my crash and burn in drugs and alcohol. Thank you. And then I got sober. I got sober young. But then at 28, kind of the wheels were coming off. I decided to anesthetize. At the time, I was a salesman at Texas Flange. I didn't know that I was ever going to have a path to get more than just being a salesman, and so there was an opportunity to maybe start a business. I was also having like serious problems in my first marriage, so I started a business with a guy. We went from concept to 9 employees on 3 projects in 4 months.
Wow.
Yeah, and I was
fast.
I was like way fast, and I'd heard a lot of people talk about like you can grow a company too fast. You really can.
Hypergrowth can be a bad thing.
It can be a bad thing, and I was like, yeah, no, more is better. More is always better. Once you get more, then you get all, then you get more. It's like just crazy, like driven. So I thought it was like great. We're in these 3 different projects, and these people's houses are all tore apart, and we're going to put them back together, and we're going to make all this money. and then like at the onset of that, I was talking to the guy outside of a friend of ours' house. We were sitting in the back, and I was telling him, it's like, what's the worst that could happen? I'd have to file bankruptcy. So I'd spent like 9 years building up a credit rating so that I could have like $100,000 in credit card.
This is when you're 28 at this point?
Yeah, I'm 28. So I've spent like this career. I've built up this little career.
In your 20s, you kind of built this. All right.
Right. So I've got my income up to, at the time, the average was about 35. I'm making about 50. So I'm doing pretty good. And I have $100,000 in credit cards because I've rolled these credit cards over and over again. They used to not charge you 3% to move the money. Oh, so you could just move it, and everybody wants the money back, and it was just weird. It wasn't free interest, but it was free as long as you were rolling it.
Yeah.
So eventually I had it all paid off, and here's this opportunity. So I used the credit cards to finance the business. People say that's a bad idea, but they don't know me. I'm special.
I know what I'm doing.
So-
I got this system figured out.
So in the process of building that up and getting that big, I'm looking down and we're like 80,000 in the hole. These jobs aren't being turned in right, and people's houses are torn apart, and all the credit cards are starting to hit that mark where it's like,
Time to pay up.
I could see what's coming. What's coming is the interest is going to start to come. So the 0% is going to end. So I end up with about 80 in the hole, and it's coming apart. The business is falling apart. So I had a choice. I could try to dig out at 80, or I could like complete these people's homes. And I figured I'd be about 100 in the hole whenever I was done. And it ended up being a little over 100. And then I started trying to service that debt, not on the income coming in from the business, but on the income coming in from me selling flanges.
Yeah, so you're
And-
basically getting another job to pay for your endeavors.
My main source of income started to have to service the debt the business had created. And my personal cash flow went negative. So what I did is I started eating ramen noodles, and I started just cutting everything down to nothing. Because, I mean, going bankrupt was not in the cards. I mean, I'm already going through
Did you ever?
a
Because I've
divorce.
talked to some people that say, "Hey, just declare bankruptcy." So in your mind, that is just not even an option. You are just going to make this happen.
Think Scarlet Letter. Think Scarlet Letter. That's how I just felt like it was the end. It's like it's
You
a
felt defeated.
Global
I feel the same.
admission
I
is
feel the
like-
same. I've had people tell me, "Hey, if you just declare bankruptcy," that's a lot of people do it. In my mind, that's just you can't do that.
Yeah. Well,
so you felt the same.
let me explain it. It works like this. Whenever you're eating ramen noodles and you still can't make the payment, it becomes obvious. I had a really good friend who's really wealthy, and he said to me at the time, he says, you can declare bankruptcy, or you can be bankrupt. Like, you're bankrupt. You don't have to declare
Good point.
it, but you're still bankrupt. He's like, you're
It's just not on paper.
yeah.
It doesn't go on the record.
So you talk about falling down. I was going through a divorce. I was going through a bankruptcy. Literally, it was the divorce and the bankruptcy court were 2 months apart.
Wow.
And when I came out of the bankruptcy court, I was standing in the shadow, and I thought the colors are not going to be as bright ever again. And when the sun hits my skin, I don't know if it's going to warm me the same way. I mean, it was just crushed me.
Dark time.
Yeah, crush me.
And this is after almost about 10 years of planning and doing this business, saving up, is when it hit that. So
I
it's-
had done several things prior to that, but this one business was really fast. It started, blew up, crashed and burned, all in the space of a year.
Wow.
So it took me a few months to figure out that I was.
What year
not
are we
gonna
talking
come
about
back.
roughly? Not to age you. but-
2002.
Okay, so early 2000s.
Yeah, 2002. Everything came apart. Yeah.
So once it came apart, what happened next? What'd you do?
And I don't know how this fits. I don't know if this is a lack of faith in God or something, but I came out of bankruptcy court. I stepped into the sun. I'm like, still warms the skin. Okay, good. I'm still alive. So and I started to think like, I'm going to be okay with this. I thought I might even one day sit on a podcast and talk about it.
Nice.
No, they didn't even have podcasts back then. But I got a sense that maybe I was going to be all right. I went back to my office, and I had not a record-breaking profit order, but it was like real close. It was like one of the biggest orders I'd ever taken.
And this is after all the really bad.
Yeah,
So
it was
the,
like
the hope was
it
still
like
alive.
the climb up was like the one thing about it was it was my side hustle. I blew up my side hustle into something it should have never been. I shouldn't have been trying to create like a 6-figure income with a side hustle in 1 year. That's unrealistic. You should let a side hustle build itself into being a business. Work on it a little bit at a
That's
time.
good advice. So expand on that. So if someone does have a side hustle, they got their regular job.
It's like
In
exactly
retrospect.
what I just said. I could say it again.
Say it again.
So your side hustle shouldn't blow up into being a $100,000
But
year
what
job
were
in
you
1
doing to drive that? Did you drive that, or
I was mainly in charge of marketing, so I disregarded what the operational side of the business could do. I knew how to market. So
so you
went in-
marketed something that couldn't really deliver? Is what you got ahead of yourself?
If you have $100,000 and you're going to build a construction company, what's wrong with spending 10, crafting a message that you put into the local papers, which is how people got their contractors back then,
Right.
and you craft it really well so that your phone rings a lot and you get a lot of projects. It made sense to me, but I didn't look at the operational side, and I just ran over my partner. My partner lost his mind, and he ended up in like in a hospital. It was just
Literally, okay.
It was horrible. It was horrible. It was bad for him too, and I could play the tape of, well, he let me down,
Yeah, you can play the victim.
or I could say that
accused.
he was basically in the street and I ran him over. It's like,
Wow.
it's just... But anyway, yeah. So that's kind of
Was
one
there
of
a
the things I
time?
learned
Was
along
there
the
a
way.
time where you wanted to give up?
Well, yeah. I mean, there was like this 6-week period of time where I was like suicidal. It was horrible. It's horrible. And now I look back on that, I'm like, that was crazy. But
So what kept you going?
what kept me going? 3-year-old son that I knew needed me. I didn't believe that it was right for me to take my own life. I
So
believe
even
it
in
was
the
morally
in the
wrong.
despair, you're just like, hey, this is not my place to even take my own life.
Right. I kind of had this idea that at 28, that would be kind of an egotistical move. You know,
Were
like,
you
I know so much about me.
spiritual at this point in time?
Oh yeah. No, I was born again. I
Okay, so you grew up in church.
grew up in church, rejected it, came back in a big way.
So at 28, you just realized like, hey, this is not my place to take my own life.
Yeah, I already knew that. I mean, it's like, it's not my property. I'd be destroying someone else's property.
That's a good
So-
mindset to have.
It got me through
So
it.
that's what really helped your son, and just those two things of, hey, I
thought about
gotta
it.
keep going.
I thought about it. It's really strange. My 3-year-old son was why I couldn't kill myself.
Yeah.
But my 3-year-old son was why I wanted to. You know, I would have gone through the divorce and it wouldn't have hurt nearly as bad. But I had this kid and I'm just like, what am I doing to this kid? It's
Right.
horrible. 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 So, yeah. So now he's 27. He's in Nevada. He's doing fine. So
That's awesome.
Jeff, how'd you climb out of that? When you got at that rock bottom moment, when you wanted to kill yourself, and of course you live for your son, but
We're going to get that on the next round.
yeah, I think you're going in the next round, Termite.
I'm getting excited.
Well, unless we got any more, I mean, that sounds like rock bottom to me.
Yeah. There was a period of time. I remember the day. Never mind. I'm going to get in the next round.
Yeah, let's go.
You
let's
should
go.
ring the bell.
Ding, ding, let's ring the bell. Let's get into
All right, go
round
for
three.
it. Go for it.
Round three is the comeback. So,
Aren't
Termite,
you supposed to have like a word from your sponsor or something in between the rounds?
that would be nice.
Don't
So
I
if you
get?
want
Don't
a
I get
sponsor,
some?
if
Hold on,
anybody
hold
wants
on,
to
hold on.
sponsor,
We're in between the rounds. I get water. I should
get
have
some water.
I should have an ice pack on my head.
yeah, some guy should come like the corner man, cut man. Was
Yeah,
that
yeah.
rough? The cut man should come help you out.
They put that ice on you, you're like
Yep.
ready to fight again. You know?
That'll wake you up.
So now round three, the comeback. So go ahead, Termite.
Yep. Tell me about the comeback.
So I'm like in this really, really dark place. And I remember the day I came in, it was in the evening and I was getting ready to lay down. And I thought, man, I had thought about killing myself today. I was like, wow, this is fantastic. I think maybe I'm coming out of this funk. And that kind of predated the official, like the real suicidal period was when I realized it. The bankruptcy came after, you know, it's like the cleaning up the mess comes after realizing there's
Yeah.
a mess, you know. It's like, and when I hit bottom, when I hit absolute bottom, whenever I start doing better, I don't immediately feel better. Things don't immediately get better. You know, there's still the mess of having to clean up what I created. Right. So I've learned that, like, when you start a business, understand that, like, you have to unravel those things. If they don't make money, you know, it's a year process, year and a half to shut a business down.
Oh yeah.
You know, once you get official with the government, you're filing tax returns and that kind of thing. It's a mess. So so I started to feel like I was coming out of it. Then when we started selling more, and like the stuff that a lot of what was working with some of the work I had done for Texas Lands prior to that was starting to realize what could, you know, the potential of that was starting to be realized, and I leaned into that.
So you kind of just step back and say, all right, where am I getting the most traction? You were getting strategic at that point, not just
Right.
bouncing around.
I was dating this girl who was like, you know, we really don't need a lot. Whatever you make, you should probably like hang on to it. And like, we don't need to be spending all the money. And that was not the message in my first marriage. So I'm like,
wow.
I might be able to actually build something now. You know, we might not
So you
spend it
got,
all.
I guess, a different voice at that point.
Yes, my first wife introduced me to travel, and I'll always be grateful for that. But man, that was what we saved up for every year, was travel.
where you
And
spent.
when we got rid of all the savings every year, I'd be like, oh man, this is
Gotta start
where
over.
do we ever get ahead? You know, where's the money that you're going to invest? How do I get to passive income? I can't get to passive income if I'm always spending all my money. So when I had that message of, you know, that we're not going to have to spend all the money, when I realized that, then it's like I can lean in now, and I did. I leaned in and I started selling, and I sold more than I ever dreamed of, and my income started to rise.
It
And
sounded like she was instrumental. Were there other people that kind of gave you strength or different perspective to pull out of that?
yeah, my first business partner, my first real, I had like business partners in mowing companies and stuff like that, and I learned stuff in that. But my first real like big boy business partner went through me with all that, saw me go through all that, and then at a time where he could have very easily like valued me not to be worth keeping.
Just abandoned you, kicked you out.
Yeah, he hung with me. Yeah, so my first business partner was my father-in-law.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I went through a divorce.
And you're
with
still
his
business
daughter.
partners. Oh, my gosh.
And then he said, business is business, family's family. You make me money. I'm not canning you, because I told him I'm going to go back to Houston. I just want a good reference. And he was like, yeah, no, I'm going to fire you. You're good. You make me money. You're a good salesman. So after that, a couple years later, he sold me 49% of that company for $490, and I was very grateful for that. And I told him, I said, I'm going to make the rest of the shares that you retain, I'm going to make those more valuable, and I'm going to make sure that we're paying you a good amount for them.
You said that.
Yeah, I told that to him in 2004 when he sold me 49. So I'm like 2 years out of this, and I buy.
So where did that come from? That's a bold statement.
Yeah. Well, I could already see. I could see that if I can be unbridled, and I can not be like crazy, then I'm gonna sell. It's in my nature.
I love statements like that. People can call them arrogant, but it's kind of like calling the pocket instead of just. I'm talking about a pool analogy here. You're just shooting. If the ball sinks, yeah, I meant to do that. No, I'm calling this ball corner pocket, and you just went out and called it. You told this guy, hey, I'm going to do this for you.
Right. Yeah. So 6 years later, and any good thing I have, like if it's good information, it's stolen. If it's any attribute, it's completely God-given. The difference between a 120 IQ and an 80 IQ has nothing to do with the person that's born with it. I mean, you have no say in that whatsoever. Your parents don't have any say in it. So, like, God blessed me with an IQ that's high enough to do something, not too high. I've got a middle child that his IQ so high he refuses to even focus on money. He wants to be an academic. I love him to death, and I want him to pursue what he wants to do. He's actually a pretty cool kid, But yeah, so I'm in that sweet spot where smart enough to do something, not too smart that I have to go be in a lab somewhere. So I know this about myself. I know that I can. So I bought 49% of the company in 2004 for $490, and I bought the balance for $1.4 million in 2010.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Wow. And then that, as we've grown the company, that's become less. That was like, I was making a payment off that. I paid some cash up front, and then I had a payment. And by the time I made the payment, when I completed the payment and I stopped making the payment, I didn't even notice it. It didn't change the metric at all. Yeah, it had become such a small amount of the whole. We have really grown that company. It's been a lot of fun.
That's incredible. Yeah. I would say, so looking back, what did that teach you? The hard times, that success, because we talk about an easy life, and I think about this with my kids a lot. What did the hard times teach you that nothing else could have taught you?
Yeah, I think it's just work. It's just like, you have to work for it. Yeah, you have to. So like, I was a Domino's pizza guy, and I had a guy in the Domino's like buck up at me because I was like sweeping the floor when we were slow, or I'd fold boxes when we were slow. I was just like, I still know how to fold boxes, still know how to make pizza. My hands can still do the motions to make the pizza. I would always be working, and it offended him. He said, like, you're making the rest of us look bad. You need to slow down. And I just didn't have that, and I think that's
not in your makeup.
That's coming up with nothing. It's like, and I told this guy, I said, I'm like 18 years old. I'm like, I work for the company until I own the company. And the guy's like, you're never going to own Domino's. What are you, stupid? And I'm like, I'm arguing with it. I'm arguing with an idiot. That means I'm an idiot. It's like, so I just
That's
stopped.
That's a good point.
I turned around and walked away. But I think about that, and it's not like I'm angry at the guy. I hope he's fine. He was like in law school at the time. Maybe he turned out great. I don't know. But it was just strange. He did not like that whole, like, he felt like I was trying to stand out.
Yeah.
Which I probably was.
You did. You did stand out.
So I didn't want to get to the place where I had the opportunity and be found not working. I didn't want to get into the habit of not trying, because when the opportunity came, I wanted to be found trying.
I love that concept, because this is one of the reasons I love doing this show. Having people like you on here, people that don't know you, that haven't heard your story, I'm sure there's people think you're just lucky. They're like, well, things just worked out for you, Jeff. Like, yeah, if I had the life you had, sure, I'd be in the same place as you. And they're skipping past. That's why I love digging into these. They're skipping past how you got there, and that just working, folding pizza boxes, things like that. Well, there are people that said, hey, the boss ain't looking. I'm just going to do as little as possible and milk the clock. And those same people wonder, how come things don't work out for me? He's lucky. I'm like, you're the one. I want people to recognize, get that sense of self-responsibility, take some accountability. And you did that.
I don't know. I don't even know if it's about long term. It's just like, how long does it take to get to 5?
Yeah.
To get to 5 o'clock and clock out, it takes forever if I'm not doing anything. But if I'm working, it's like, I'll look up and it's 5.
5 o'clock.
It's like this, hard work pays off every single day I do it. And now I'm like so wired, I can't not do it.
I'm the same. Can't stop.
Jeff, if you could go back now and talk to yourself back then, what would you tell yourself?
I would hide. I would watch from a distance. I don't know that there's anything. I would be afraid I'd mess me up. If I went back and I was talking to me back then, I'd probably be like, you're going to be okay. And I'd be like, oh, I'm going to be okay. And then I wouldn't go in and do what I did. I might do something different. I wouldn't want to mess it up. When I see other people in that same position now, I try to encourage them. I just try to encourage them that they can come back. There's a correlation to try, fail, succeed. That happens a lot.
Yeah.
So I just don't like to see people try and if your whole life's goal is to do something you want to do, and what you want to do is something that's massively supplied in the economy, and you just want to do it over and over again and you keep failing, it's I'm thinking of an example bakeries. There's a lot of people that love baking. There's a ton of places baking. There's tons of cookie places. It's if you're going in that business because you love it and you want to make a living in it, that's okay. If you're going in it to get rich, that's just not a business that's going to get rich. So that,
right.
When I see somebody doing that, I'm more apt to tell them you're taking your hobby, trying to make a business out of it. You better nail it. You got to be perfect. And spot on in every area. You're going to have to be great food,
Excellence.
Great marketing, always at it, and if you do, you can differentiate out and you can make a good living, but you're going to be fighting just a massive amount of supply.
Yeah.
But then I also underestimate how many people eat baked goods, because I don't. So
Some people just like doing what they like to do, and they don't think of it strategically, and that's okay. But we're kind of differentiating, hey, if you want to be really excellent in something, you got to do more than just what you like to do. Is that what you're saying?
Right. So there is nothing sexy about flanges.
Some might argue.
Coffee's a little better, and I've been involved with a coffee shop, and we've helped grow that, and now own the properties underneath it. And I love coffee for paying rent. Coffee pays rent. Not a lot of margins on the business, but the actually owning the land's a pretty good deal. The flange business is not sexy at all. There's nothing you tell people, I sell flanges, and they're like, I want to get close to that guy. He's a flange salesman. It's The aspect of it, though, is you have to find some kind of passion around whatever you're doing, and I've found it now. I'm all in for flanges. It's crazy.
The flanges may not be sexy, but what the flanges do for you, what it can make you, and what it can give you, is sexy. And
says the boxing promoter. he's like, we always look for sponsors. We're always looking for a sponsor for Fighter Nation. Fighter Nation would love to put your sign on the wall.
I wanted to talk to you about that.
Maybe afterwards we can talk about
Let's do that again. Well, let's ring the bell. Let's go to the next round, and we're going to talk about just the growth. So you've kind of come out of this. I would say, are there rituals, habits, kind of philosophies that you live by that have really helped get you through?
Right. So two things that my thing and how I kind of run. I set goals. And I have a things to do list. I like to
have a to-do list.
Man, I like to put stuff on there. I like to have meaning behind it. I want it to be relevant to what I'm doing. I don't want to just put stuff on.
It's not aimless.
Yeah. So it's basically SMART goals. I look for SMART goals that I can measure, and they're measurable, they're specific, they're
Yeah, I love that
Time
acronym.
accountable.
So people that have not
relevant.
heard of that, the SMART goals, just do that again. SMART,
Okay.
S-M-A-R-T.
Yeah, specific, measurable, attainable.
I think realistic. Is it?
No, relevant and time
Like a time
dependent.
associated.
Yeah. So if I say like I'm going to read 15 books this year, hard copy books, I'm going to read them in this year. That's measurable. It's specific. It's attainable. 50 books for me, I read slow. 50 books would be not attainable. 15 I can do. It's relevant to me because I'm going to choose things I'm going to blend spiritual, entertainment, and business. I'm going to do about 5 books each. I'm doing this year. This is why I can speak on it. It's relevant to what I'm doing, and it's time dependent. So if I know at the end of the year I've either done it or I haven't. So
Yeah, I think that's a great just formula to remind people, because I see a lot of people that get excited about changing their life, a goal,
Right.
and they set some ridiculous goal. I'm going to lose, I don't know if they're overweight, I'm going to lose 100 pounds in 2 months. Like, it's not attainable. It's not realistic. You can't. So they set themselves up for failure. That's a very extreme example, but people do that in different areas of their life, and I think it causes just discouragement.
yeah, and then when you're setting yourself up for failure over and over again, it kind of burns in that you're a failure. If I fail, eventually I start thinking I'm a failure.
Right.
So I like to have stuff that's attainable. And so like the books, I was 225 whenever the year started, and I put like 195. I'm going to see 195. That's one of my goals this year. So I'm only a couple pounds from that. I'm real close. Every time I get really, really close, there's like an opportunity to eat pizza or something. And I'd like to thank you guys for noticing how much weight I've lost. Oh, wait, you didn't. What kind of friends are you, really?
We wanted to talk about that
That
last.
shirt, that shirt just hides it no matter what. So you're free to eat whatever pizza you want with a shirt like that.
Last week, Whitney was on here. He looked like he was going to a funeral. Okay, so I gotta wear something. I gotta wear better than Whitney. The guy can buy and sell me 4 times over. I gotta at least look better than him.
Whitney actually has a question for you. Whitney says, "Where did you get that shirt, Jeff?"
He wants to get one like it, I think, is the second part of the question.
Honestly, Academy. You don't have to spend a lot of money to dress flashy
Does it
now.
say Houston on there?
It does. It says
That's a
Houston.
cool shirt.
It says be someone.
I didn't
don't know
even
where they got
really
that from.
read it.
I don't support graffitiing stuff. I really don't like graffiti, except for whenever you do it really well and it becomes like the theme of the city. Then it's okay.
There are some people that will watch this outside of Houston. So we have a famous graffiti that's written over a bridge that somebody did, I guess, 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah, it's become like the city's motto.
And it
be
says,
someone.
be someone.
Yeah.
And wasn't it like maybe a year or two ago someone vandalized the graffiti, if
Right.
that even can happen? And then there's this big uproar to bring it back. So we've brought it back.
Oh yeah. They put it back in that place. They've painted it on a lot of stuff, and it's kind of the.
If there ever was
motto.
positive graffiti, I think be someone is definitely one of them.
I thought getting the shirt was better than like having it tattooed to my body, which I've seen a lot of people with the tattoo.
That's dedication.
Yeah, that's different. Yeah. So.
Jeff, I know faith plays a major part in your whole life. What part has it played in your comeback? I mean, you struggled in life, you had some problems, and now you're successful. What has faith played in that?
Got it. Thank you for the question, because I completely left this out. I was still making about $50,000 a year, and I felt like God was telling me that I was going to give away $1 million. And I was like, yeah, sure, God. Whenever I've got when I die, maybe I'll have $1 million in net worth and I'll give it away. And I got this real strong impression that it was going to be in the next 5, maybe 10 years. It was going to be sooner than I thought. And the next year, I made $350,000. So my income multiplied by 7. And I gave away $200,000. And that was hard, but it wasn't that hard, because the income that I could live on went from 50 to 150. So even though I gave away this massive amount of income as a percentage of my income still went up. So it wasn't even like sacrificial, except for in the sense that I had no assets at the time. So there was a part of me that wanted to hold on to more of it, but I just felt like if I do this, I could do this in 5 years. So the next year, it became a smaller percentage, and then it became a smaller percentage, and then it became a smaller percentage, and then it was like, it's almost like a tithe. It's more than a tithe, but I wasn't making that much, but it felt more like a tithe. So yeah. So that was a big part of it. And then I tell God, it's like we're getting to like 2013 at the time, and I'm in prayer, and I'm like, man, God, it feels so good to give away. The giveaway is the best part of it all. It's the best part of it all. I love it. I love being able to do this. And I said, you can't even stop me from giving away $200,000. I love doing this, God. You can't even stop me. The next year, my income crashed. I mean, it was just straight off. It's like, and I learned something. Don't tell him what he can't do, good or bad, So I struggled, I didn't get to 200. I was short of it. He stopped me. So, and then after that, I said, well, if you won't ever do that again, I'm going to stick that as being kind of the basis. And so I've got a chunk of it goes to the church, and I've got a couple nonprofits that I've already selected that I like, that I give to. So that's kind of what I do. I do a lot with the wheelhouse. Whitney drugged me into the wheelhouse, and then he left. And he left me with all of his problems to clean up. So we've been doing that for 5 years. So I love the wheelhouse.
That's an incredible foundation. I heard a lot about, Whitney describe what that does for folks.
We're about to do a 5K run for the wheelhouse. And if somebody will give us $850,000 to pay off the sober home, I will run it backwards there.
Run it backwards, 5K backwards. All right. So our listeners out there, anybody's got extra $850K?
Just laying around, that'd be great. Now I've thought about like shaving the tithe and like pushing it into the wheelhouse to try to help with that. And it's like, nah, I'm going to do the same amount I do every year for them. It's all operational.
It's a good goal, though. I mean, the wheelhouse, what it does for people to make that free, per se, for the guys. Somebody's got to pay for it.
Yeah, that 30-day house is free. Yeah, the first 30 days. Yeah, it's fantastic. And like, we generally will see about 40 guys through there in the course of a month. We'll go through that 30-day house. And we have like eight or 10 of them every month that's coming back getting a year chip. So
you think of the lives that are changed just through that.
Oh, it's fantastic. It's fantastic. I saw a mom one time. She's like, whenever you were using, it was $20. Give me $20. Give me $20. Every time I saw you, you wanted $20 to buy your stupid drugs. She's telling this to a guy that's got like a year sober. She's like getting on to him. She says, so tonight, she pulls out $20. She goes, I'm giving it to the wheelhouse. And she throws it in the basket. So stuff like that all the time. It's just beautiful. Great. It's beautiful to see it happen.
So speaking of change, the different things, have your hardships changed now that you're, I'll call you successful?
I would say that there's no more like, how am I going to pay the light bill? Those kind of things. That goes away. It goes away. So now there's questions about what's the right thing to do with my time, what's the right thing to do with my finances. So those
resources,
those questions come in, how much should I work? What's a fair amount? So what I've done, like sometimes I've got involved in boxing and I would ignore my business for a while, and I've got it structured so I can. But there's other times where I'm looking at like, I've got my employees, they're fighting to keep where they're at. And if I'm removed completely, there's something that I can do to help them, and I'm just choosing not to, and that doesn't feel right.
A sense of responsibility.
Yeah. So I can't just tap one guy and say, run it, and then just leave. I should still do something for it. Yeah.
So Jeff, we're going to go into round 5.
Let's go. Ring the bell. We'll go to round 5.
I didn't know there was a round 5.
It is. We're wrapping it up.
Is this where you're going to ask me horrible personal questions like you did last time?
This is just the summary, the victory, and I'll start it out by asking, what does success mean to you today, and how has that changed over time?
So any definition of success that I can't bring along the teacher who's called to teach and thoroughly enjoys it and is changing the lives of the students they're working with, if I can't bring that person along, my definition of success is too limited. So the way I think about it is, if you're doing what God called you to do, and you're using your skill set in a way that is part of your calling, and you're kind of having fun with it, then you're probably successful. Because like the teacher's they're never gonna own. Most teachers will never own a business. They're always going to have a boss.
And not everybody's
not going to
own a business or be an entrepreneur, right? So that's not success.
I wish every teacher that was good at what they do, I wish that they would inherit millions of dollars when they're 38. It just doesn't work that way. So, they get a lot out of teaching those kids. The good ones, they get a lot of hit. I know a lot of teachers, and they get a hit off that. I mean, they like what I feel whenever everything works right, when the quarter balances out and it's profitable, and all my employees are happy and everything's going good. And it's like, man, I feel like this is awesome. This is awesome. They get that same feeling normally around May whenever they're seeing the end and they're about to go into their summer.
I think it goes back to what you just prefaced your statement with, when you're doing what God calls you to do, or the purpose you're created for.
Right.
Not everybody, sometimes I hesitate to talk to some folks about business and entrepreneur because they think you're just focused on money. It's not the case, but we have different drives. I want to succeed. Sometimes, you see this with really successful people, like Whitney. He can just do nothing for the rest of his life and be completely fine. Why do people like that work? Because they have a purpose. And so they're just that. So the same regard, if you're a teacher, that's kind of like your calling, and you're going to be fulfilled. You will be successful. And it's not a bank account success. It's that fulfillment. And I think if you encourage everybody to go towards that, seek what you're called to do, you're going to be fulfilled as long as you work toward it.
I wish there was something. I was trying to think of something funny and mean to say about Whitney there, and I just couldn't come up with anything. But yeah, that's the gist of it. The idea is that we're doing what we're called to do, because there's a lot of callings that don't end up with a bunch of money.
Exactly. That was my point.
I know if you're called to entrepreneurship and you don't step out into it, you're going to always miss.
Yeah.
You're always going to be like,
that's one of those
not
things
right.
you're going to regret. You're
I
going
think
to
so.
regret not trying.
I think so. There's also people that will sacrifice, and they choose not to. If I had gotten an aged parent or a disabled sibling or something dropped in the middle of all this, I might not have done this either. It might have been better for me at that point to just work for someone else.
Right.
I worked for some great people, and I don't think back at my days of working for other people like it was bad.
And that's what I wanted to emphasize with the comment. The end all and be all is not running your own business or being an entrepreneur. There's some people that are not called for that. Whether you're a teacher or an employee, everybody can't run a business. We need, people got to be nurses and people got to be policemen. Our society couldn't function.
Right. And the idea behind like what you're doing here should be open to those people. It should be open to everybody.
Yes.
That everybody needs to know that there's opportunities to come back from being knocked down.
Right, regardless.
Because everybody has that. I mean, it's like nobody. This is the other thing. We all think that like our pain is so special. It's like
Everybody's pain is their pain.
right.
Talking about pain, people that may be out there listening that are going through things right now, going through some of the things what advice would you give them? If they've been,
I'm not an advice guy. I'm just not. I like experience, strength, and hope. It's like I have an experience. If you can relate to that or you see something in it that works for you, and one-on-one, it's easy to pull like an experience from your past and offer it to someone. Like I've been there. I know what you're talking about. But when you're talking to general, it's the general experience, and then the fact that we are stronger. But like we're all bad judges of ourselves. It's like I don't know how strong I am. I don't know how weak I am. My wife can tell you, like, she can tell you, like, you're kind of struggling in this area. My wife told me a couple weeks ago, she goes, you need to go right on that. And I'm like, okay. And I go in the back and I start writing down how I'm mad at all these people. And I'm like, oh, okay. So they're interfering with my ambitions and I'm scared and I've got a lot of fear in this. And as I clean all that up, I'm able to function because my wife can see in me better than what I can see. I'm thinking I'm just making decisions. She's saying you're being driven by your character defects. Yeah. Like, thank you.
I would say that's a good piece of advice.
But she functioned as a Proverbs 31 wife today between 10 a.m. and 2:30, and then said she needed 3 days off. So
I'm gonna leave that one alone. But as far as advice, so Whitney said something similar last week, and he said when he hit rock bottom, he realized he was just making bad decisions. So I'm gonna let other people make decisions for me. That's kind of what you're saying in a different form.
That's fantastic. Also, if everything in your world is falling apart, just start doing the opposite of what you think should happen.
Draw that too.
Yeah. Oftentimes it's like my nature says do this. Well, I'm failing in everything, so you do the opposite. A lot of it's about surrender too, like surrendering to the moment. And then, then from that place of surrender, living in the moment.
Yeah.
And accepting and realizing like, all right, I am not doing this well.
Yeah. I had about a year ago, I was like, I would like to just destroy it all so I could build it again. It was so much fun building it. And I missed some of that I missed because I was just so busy, like get to the destination. And there was a lot of fun in that journey,
So if it all went away today and you had to build it all over again, what would that look like?
I would try to take my passive income and stretch till I could draw Social Security.
Now we're going to Social Security. All right.
I'm just, I don't know. It's no, I'm kidding. I would do something. I'd figure out something to do. Yeah, and
That's just in your blood.
well, and honestly, like, I'm really good at marketing. I love marketing. I have the most visited website in the world in my industry. I have a small little niche industry, but I've got the most visited website. I like doing that. I like building that. I like the work that's involved, the team you have to manage to be able to do that. I enjoy that work. So if it really all came down and it's like, and I didn't have any capital to work with, I'd probably just go to work for somebody doing their marketing, preferably somebody with money
There you go.
that would appreciate it and,
you have the skill
and
set.
pay me well.
Well, you got the skill set that you know it is valuable in the marketplace, regardless of the industry, is what you're saying.
So I try to find something I could do that I would enjoy for the next 10, 12 years, and then I'd try to retire early. I don't necessarily want to be attached to stuff in my 70s. I mean, there's some people are like that. They just, but I want to be passive by the time I'm 70. I don't want to
Nice.
be, yeah.
What are some of the things, I would say, as we wrap it up, what are you most proud of? What do you want your legacy to be, be that professional, personal, whatever that might be?
I am a strong proponent of democracy. I believe that leaders should be put to the test of the vote. I want 2 out of 3 of my children to say I'm a good dad. If I can get 2 out of 3, I can live with that. I don't have to have all of
I've
them.
never thought about it that way.
Good
I
way
just
to
need a
look at it.
majority.
So the more
No,
kids you
seriously,
have,
it's-
the easier or harder this could be.
Yeah, no, I was kind of making light of it, but basically my kids. The kids are the legacy. My wife being like fulfilled and like not being like, I'd hate for me to die and then her to go, great, now I can live, or like.
That's a
I
good,
want-
interesting metric.
I want my wife to be happy, and I want my kids to continue to grow and to improve and do what they do so
Yeah.
well. So, yeah.
Wow.
Well, it's been exciting.
It has.
As
Thank
we
you,
knew
Jeff.
it would be.
Yeah, it's just a lot of fun. It's always fun. You guys should come on my show sometime.
I think we should. Well, we're going to close this out and, I guess end that round.
Yeah, we'll
And
end that
thank you
round.
so much, Jeff. Well, thanks
Jeff-
for having us on, or thanks for coming on our show. We can't wait to have
Thank
you
you
back.
so much, Jeff. And
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we should go see a fight or something.
I think we should.
Or go start
I
one.
think we should.
Go start one.
Or we go start one, or we can get another fighter.
Let's talk about the next show. I think so. We didn't even talk about that in the deal where y'all did the boxing promotion.
Yeah.
A lot of inside talk here, but blatantly, maybe we should do a little fire it up. I'm gonna go ahead and poke on both of y'all to do some more promos. Those were fun. I enjoyed going to them. I didn't have to go through the stress of what y'all did to make it happen. It was a fun event for me to go to.
Jeff is amazing. He's a great businessman. He's great to work with. We had fun.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Buying into a boxer, a lot cheaper. And you go to the show and you have all the ups and downs. You see the fights. Then your boxer comes up and it's really, really important they do well. So that's a lot fun. It's a lot more fun and it's a lot cheaper. So.
Nice. Well, cue the music, and then thanks for coming on the show, Jeff. We
Yeah,
really
thanks,
appreciate
guys.
it.
Thank you so much,
A lot of
Jeff.
fun.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate you more than you could ever know, buddy. Get to keep our guard up.
Well, that was powerful. Not that I was surprised, but it was definitely powerful.
Yeah, it was exciting. Any time with Jeff Barnett is exciting. I don't care if it's going to lunch. I don't care if it's riding in the car, or if it's doing a podcast. It's
Yeah,
gonna be
him
exciting.
calling me out, thinking I guess it is a good metric where he was saying, "Hey, I haven't heard from you in a while. We haven't gone to lunch. Business must be going well." Kind of made me chuckle. He's got a point.
Right. Well,
Well, I was really, impressed with, the overcoming. So I'd be curious if anybody out there has to, more comments on some of his story, but the inspiration to just to keep going.
Yeah.
I haven't dealt with some of the things he's dealt with, the addiction and the crashing, but to hear stories like that where people come back and doing what he's doing is just encouraging.
It is encouraging. You know what excited me? Now, I never knew about him serving pizza.
Yeah, I didn't. I didn't know
And,
that he's worked at Domino's, and he was apparently really good at it.
Yeah. Domino's may offer him a job.
Or just get a franchise. Maybe he should
or
buy
he
the
may
Domino's to fulfill that little brag that he said.
Yeah, he could probably buy Domino's now. And so it was exciting, as we knew it would be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I think we should go ahead and wrap it up as well.
I think so.
And like we like to end up all of our shows, life does come at you quick, so we're going to tell everybody to keep your guard up.
Keep your guard up.